Hey there, guys. Welcome to my channel. My name is Cerise Fairfax. I'm coming at you from the north coast of the Dominican Republic in a province by the name of Puerto Plata, in a municipality by the name of Sosua, and in a little area called Los Cheramicos, where I live. I live where I love, and I love where I live. Guys, today is story time. Whoa. And, story time, it always has a twist and a turn and a jump and a bumble. And this one does for sure. But before we get into today's story time, I do want to tell you guys, kind of like I did last week, there's construction going on outside. Listen. Oh, just as I said that, it stopped. They're drilling. Yeah, there we go. So anyway, get your tea, get your coffee, get your drink, whatever it is you're enjoying, and kick your feet up, get your fork. We're going to dish into the meal of this story time right now. And before we do, I actually want to say to you guys, I put out a little video 2 days ago about the guy that was reported missing in the Dominican Republic. Apparently him and his wife broke up. She's Dominican and she cut him off. She blocked him and he came here to the Dominican Republic and he went missing for 2 weeks. He's been found alive and we are happy for that. But I guess the whole story is, don't chase somebody who doesn't want you. Be a rejection specialist. Even if you want to fight for your relationship because you are a hopeless romantic like me, still be patient, calm, cool, collected, and it will pass. And if it's meant to be, it will be. All right. Today's story time. There's two main characters involved here. We are going to name them. Oh gosh, you guys know the names are always fictitious, but the story is always true. So I always make the names up on the spot according to what I see around me. Mata. We'll name the girl Mata. Mata means tree. That's something that you should know. That's a little Spanish word for you right there. And we'll name the guy Joel. Well, no, the guy is American, so we'll name him Paul. We'll name him Paul, just kind of like a normal English name. So we have Mata and we have Paul. Now, Paul and Mata met here in the Dominican Republic. When he came here and he met her, he was going back and forth from Santo Domingo. He was also going to Santiago, Sosua. He was literally coming to the Dominican Republic to meet a woman. That was his intent. And he met Mata. He met one of the best women. But there was one thing about her that he didn't like. And that thing that he didn't like was the fact that she had, drum roll, 5 children. And he was like, I'm sorry, I like you, but when I come to visit you in the Dominican Republic, I don't want you and your 5 kids. I want you. Now, she tried to say to him that she was a package, but at the same time, she looked at him as an opportunity. Is that right? Is that wrong? Who am I to say? She still cared for him and he cared for her, but she didn't want to sacrifice her relationship. And she also didn't want to sacrifice her children. She was stuck between a rock and a hard spot. So when Paul would come to visit, she would allow her sister to take care of her kids. Now, that's a lot of kids, right? When he met her, she was 35 years old. Her oldest child was 11. He was like, I don't want these kids under my feet. They're all pretty much 2 years apart. He's like, these are small kids. I don't want them around me. I don't want to bring gifts for them. I don't want to, bring food for them. I don't want to take care of them. Don't ask me for any money for medicine. Don't ask me for any money for food. Don't ask me for any money for clothing, for rent, or for a roof over your head, or even to fix any furniture for your children. I am loving you for you. And she had to accept that if she wanted to be in his life. Now, when he would come to the Dominican Republic, he would have her stay with him for 7 days, every 3 months. He didn't even pay for the babysitter, like for her sister to babysit. She had to make sure that, whatever extra money he gave to her, if she asked him for something or anything of that nature, she would have to save that and give it to her sister, like any type of extra food that he would leave in the fridge when the 7-day vacation was done with. And her sister would often say to her, why are you with this guy? He's not even giving you anything. You're giving him everything. And there is no, doesn't seem like there's any pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And she said, I have faith. She's 35 years old and she had these 5 kids and she felt like she didn't want to be a burden on anyone anyway. Well, Paul, he said to her one day, he's like, look, my job situation has changed after dating her for 2 years. He said to her, look, my job situation has changed and I won't be able to go to the Dominican Republic as often. I literally probably won't even be able to go once a year. So I'm offering to marry you and take you to the United States. If this is what you want to do, then you have to come. But you leave your children in the Dominican Republic. I'm never filing for them and I never want to have anything to do with them. He hasn't even seen photos at this point of her children. Not even one photo. That part of her life, that part of her world has nothing to do with him. And he also knew that he was an opportunity for her. He knew. I mean, this guy, it wasn't even like he was, fantastically radiant, oh gosh. I don't want to be mean, but I do got to tell you guys the visual. So he's the type of guy that, has the big belly, the flat back, from the shoulders all the way down to the calves. He just looks like a board, but he has the big belly. It looks like the pregnant belly. It's not just a big belly. It looks like it actually has something wrong with it. But he wasn't a drinker. That's what he looked like, an alcoholic. He had the big bub nose with the craters on it. And I don't like talking this way. None of us are perfect, but I'm just giving you guys the visual. He was, balding, stunk like cigar. His fingers were yellow because he smoked so much cigars. And it just was horrendous. Yeah, Paul was not really a good catch and he wasn't an opportunity in regards to appearance, but not everybody does have to be an opportunity in regards to appearances. Some people have big hearts and they don't look that great, but they're still a great catch because they have an awesome personality. So let's put that out there. And then you also have people who have a lot of money and they will provide for you and pay for your children and do everything that a mother would want for her children, but they are not very nice people, and so Paul was just someone who really loved Mata and wanted her for his wife, but didn't want her children. He ended up taking her to the United States. She said yes. She went to the United States. One thing that he did do with her often was he allowed her to come to the Dominican Republic to visit her children once a year. And not only that, he put her through school. He put her through school. He allowed her to get an education. And all she had to do was make sure that she was home 5 o'clock every day in order to make sure she was there to receive him and have his food on the table by 7 o'clock. And that's really all he asked of her, was to be there from 5 to 7 days a week. Anything else she did with her life in the United States was totally her prerogative. After she graduated from school, she got a job. None of her money did she have to spend on anything. So she saved all that money. He said to her, you sacrificed a lot for me, and I thank you for that. And I don't need your money. So you use that money for your family back home. She really appreciated that. Okay, so she would come back to the Dominican Republic once a year, and she would come down with barrels full of stuff. And when she wasn't able to come down, like during Christmas or whatever, because that was one of the stipulations as well. He wanted her in the United States during special occasions, Christmas parties for his work, Valentine's Day, obviously, Easter, Thanksgiving. He wanted her, in here, like, there's not really any special occasions. For her birthday, she had to be with him. For his birthday, she had to be with him. New Year. So she could never ever really be in the Dominican Republic. She could only come during the summer times, which was really not so bad because the kids were all out of school. So she was able to spend time with her kids when they were out of school. Some time had passed on, and it was 10 years that she was doing this in the United States, working, coming down to the Dominican Republic once a year, but sending barrels during Christmas time, sending barrels and presents for her family when it was her kids' birthdays and stuff of that nature. And she always made sure she sent money to her sister because her sister was actually the one who kept her 5 kids. And her sister did not make a lot of money herself. So it was Mata's idea to make sure that she would even send her sister money every month for a bigger place. So she would send, so the sister lived in Puerto Plata. The sister lives in Puerto Plata, and Mata would send $400 a month, and she set her up with a really nice house, and they were living Dominican style, right? But you're going back years ago. And so $400 years ago for a house was actually quite a lot, and so she made sure that her children lived well. She made sure that she paid for all her children's uniforms to go to school, all their lunches. Her sister didn't have to foot a bill for anything. And she also helped her sister with her sister's 2 children. Okay. So now some years pass on. Like I said, 10 years. Paul got sick, and he found out that he was really sick. So he had stage 4 cancer. She didn't want to take care of him. And she said to me, Cerise, I always hear of these stories. I always listen to your stories because I always like to stay connected. And she's been listening to my stories since 2019. And she's like, I listen to all your stories and I enjoy your stories. Some of them I identify with. I know some of the women you're talking about, and some of them, I know those types of guys, and I always like to hear the stories. She's like, I'm still a Dominican, even though I lived in the United States for so long. She's like, but I'll tell you something. I have to tell you this story because I feel bad. She's like, I know you're a spiritual person, and I just feel bad. I want to see what your viewers say in the comments about what I did. So she told me, Paul got sick. He found out he had stage 4 cancer. At first, she was taking time off work. And she was taking time off work to take him to the doctor. She was spending time with him. And then it started to take a toll on her at work. And also at work, they said to her, you got to make a sacrifice. We understand your husband is sick, but you have a job to do. You have to make a choice. And she said to me, for the second time in her life, she realized that she had to make another important sacrifice, and she wasn't going to sacrifice for Paul. She said the first time she made such a huge sacrifice, leaving her children to be with Paul, and although he treated her good and he helped her get a good life together, she said if she left her job, she would have nothing for her future, and everything would have been worth nothing. She said at least leaving her children and having that job still gave her a way to give back to her children. But leaving her job and leaving her children was too much for her to bear. She just couldn't imagine what her life would be like to stay at home with him all the time, and it's all about him. Paul didn't tell her that she had to leave her kids. He just told her he doesn't want to have kids around him. And if she wants to be with him and have that opportunity to go to the United States, then she needs to make that sacrifice. If she doesn't do it, he'll find someone else to do it. she made that sacrifice, but she wasn't willing to do it twice. So she said to him, Paul, I'm really sorry. I love you. I thank you so much for the opportunity that you gave me, but I cannot take care of you while you're sick. And he's like, what? Like, you're my wife. And she's like, yes, I know, but I took care of you for all these years. And I left my children waiting in the hallway. I like the way she said that. She's like a house, like an apartment, and she put her kids outside. She's like, I've been leaving my kids waiting in the hallway, and I always made you first. And my kids never hated me for that. And my kids never hated you for that. But I have to tell you this, right now that you're sick, I can't give up my entire life for you. And he said, well, I'm leaving everything to you. Now, he wasn't a very wealthy man, but he was well off. They lived in a beautiful home. He had an amazing job. He was a CEO of a large corporation. And so he made good money. She actually didn't even have to work. But he told her that she had to get an education and she did have to go get a job. Now, the thing was this, when she did go get the job, he told her too, there were times where, she was sick or she took a day off. And he would say to her, oh, come on, it's only a cold. Don't be like that. Go to work. And there were times where he'd call her lazy. He would call her an underachiever. Meanwhile, she was one of the best workers. She was so important at her job that's why her employer told her, you got to make up your mind what you're doing with your life because we need you here. You are an integral part of this position, of this job. Like, everyone relied on her for everything at that position. So, she made the decision not to take care of Paul. Paul's health continued to decline. And as his health started to decline, he was confined to his bed, even though they brought in a nurse to take care of him. Mata started to grow angry. And this is where it gets a little confusing and where she wants your advice. She started to grow angry. She thought to herself, this man kept her from her kids every Christmas for over a decade. He didn't even want to see a photo of her children. And by this time, she had 2 grandchildren from her oldest child. And he didn't want to even see photos or enjoy that part of her life with her. Not even one photo. She said one time, oh, Paul, look, I have a grandchild. He said, I don't want to hear about that. That's your life. Just like that. Could you imagine? You're married to someone, you're taking care of them, you're with them, living with them, and something so exciting happens in your life that person just doesn't even care. But that really started to wear on her when he was in the bed and he couldn't even fend for himself any longer. And he was dying. Stage 4 cancer. She decided that she was going to bring her children over. Christmas was coming, and she wanted to show him that she was not his esclavo, his slave, another Spanish word for you, or esclava. She was not his esclava, okay? And she wanted to show him before he died that he did not get the best of her, and that her family is so important to her. This is where she grapples with what happened because she feels like she didn't have to do this, but a part of her wanted to get him back. She invited over and she paid for everyone, her 2 grandchildren and her oldest child. They came over because she didn't get to see them, right? She got to see one grandchild the year before. And then the new baby was born during the year. So the new baby was like 8 months old. So she said, I'm bringing my children here and I'm going to show him. These are my grandchildren. You don't want to see a photo? You're going to see their faces and you're going to see what my life was all about and what I left for you. You're going to see why I worked so hard all the time. And then at the same time, this is where she feels bad. He didn't take a cent from her paycheck. He never asked her to do anything, just 7 days a week, be in the house and cook, be in the home by 5 and make sure his dinner was prepared by 7. That's it. Obviously, their bedroom rituals and stuff like that, their intimacy life and everything, which she said she never ever enjoyed. And she said that every time he kissed her, he smelled so bad. But she took advantage of an opportunity and he took advantage of an opportunity. The two gave service to each other. And she said she did everything with grace. And she said he did everything with like selfishness. So she brought the children to her place and they were a bundle of joy. Now they were quiet. It's not like they entered the home, and it was a huge home. It's not like they entered the home and they were noisy. He didn't even really know they were there at first. He asked the nurse, who is Mata talking to? The first day they arrived. Who's Mata talking to? Is Mata on the phone? And the nurse said, no, her family is here. Her grandchildren are here and her oldest child. And he said, what? And she said, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like they're so sweet. And he said, close my door. And so the nurse got up and closed the door. And he said, you leave. You go out there. Tell her I don't want anyone in my room. So the nurse did. The nurse was also Dominican. So for the nurse thought this was a beautiful thing. She had no idea the situation at hand. So the nurse went out and the nurse said to Mata, she said, he asked me to leave the room. I told him that your children are here, and your child is here and your grandchildren, but I guess he's tired. Maybe he's sad that he won't be able to see them for the rest of their lives. And Mata said, no, that's not the thing. He's still being selfish. He's still being mean. I thought at least on his deathbed, he would want to see the seed of who I am. So she grabbed one child by the hand and she held the other child. She walked into that room and she plunked them on the bed beside him. And she said, these are my grandchildren. This is the baby. And she turned the face to look right at Paul, and Paul turned his head. On his deathbed, the man only had like another couple of weeks of life, and he turns his head. And then he says, I don't care. Turns his head. I told you don't ever bring them here. And this is what you do to me on my deathbed. And she's like, I'm not doing this to you. I'm doing this for you. I'm trying to heal your heart from hate. These are God's children. They could have brought you so much joy. And he's like, I didn't need them for joy. I had my work. I had my good life. She said, and you had a good wife. And he said, had? And she said to him, yes, had. I'm leaving you. You have a nurse. He said, who's going to take care of me? She said, the nurse. You're in good hands. He said, tell my lawyer to come. I'm changing my will. And she said, you know what? You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. I didn't sign on the dotted line to have a life of misery with you. I'm leaving you. And not only that, I already have my own apartment and I pay my own bills. I don't need you. Well, Paul died. Paul died about a week and a half after that. And she did not go see him during his last breath, even though the nurse contacted her and said, hey, Mata, do you want to come? She said, no, no. And then he died and she didn't even go to the funeral. His company had to plan the funeral and his company had to put everything together for him. She didn't even go to the funeral. And he didn't change his will. She received everything and she got that house and she's filing for each and every one of her children to move to the United States. And she has that big house and she has that big amount of insurance payment out to her. The inheritance, I guess, not inheritance, but yeah, the insurance, death insurance. And she also has that good job. So she sacrificed for a long time. And now she feels bad. She said she feels guilty. It's hard for her to pray sometimes because she feels like she staked revenge on him on his deathbed. But I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. I think Paul on his deathbed could have just looked at the children and kind of just looked at her. You know, he didn't have to turn his head and act like they were worthless. I don't know. It's always a hard one, these story times. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Cerise Fairfax. Please take a moment to subscribe. Don't just watch the video, like the video. It's free to do so and it helps my channel grow. I love you. And remember, I have a Storytime playlist right here. If you just click on this, it will take you to a whole bunch of story times that you can listen to one right after the other. Or you can press on this and it will just give you one video. Make sure you enjoy yourself today and make sure you make today count. Tomorrow is not promised to you. So do the best to make the best of today.